Well, we're back for another exciting show. And this is one of those shows that's a crossover show. Why? Because whenever we have Dr. U, it's usually for a special Science and You segment of the show where we dive into physics and its implications for other disciplines and fields of study. But we're also having our guest today, Matthew Spearman, is with us as well, who has been on our show frequently recently to talk about some of the insights of Ray Peat's bioenergetic paradigm of biology and anatomy and all of the ways in which the human life and life itself is a little bit different than what the textbooks tell us. So first, I wanted to have Dr. Yu. Thank you for joining us again, Dr. Yu.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's so great to have you on before we end this year too, by the way. What an exciting year. Next year is going to be bigger than ever before. Can you imagine?
Looking forward to next year.
Yeah. Now, Matthew Spearman, also so glad to have you on and thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be on as always, David.
Yeah. So you sent me this thing that you had posted on Twitter on your account, which is Sphenoxiphoid underscore in between Spheno and Xiphoid. And it says that's the that's the Twitter handle you have. It says the electromagnetic signatures of various antibiotics, amphotericin, vancomycin, metro metronidazole. How do you say that one? Metrodiazole.
I think it's metronidazole.
Okay, nidazole. I was going. Always
Nidazole.
go with your first instinct. Were recorded, transferred into plain water, and ended up significantly inhibiting the growth of bacteria, fungi, and parasites. Now, you screenshotted the abstracts of some of these papers where you highlighted things you wanted us to be aware of. Um, that would you go ahead and just summarize some of this for us?
Yeah, so there was research done, and I guess the one critique you could make about this is these are all seem to be done by the same people, various different points in time, but the same people. What they did is they took various antibiotics, so one of them specifically for bacteria, one for fungi, one for sort of microorganisms, parasites. They recorded the electromagnetic signature of these different compounds. I don't completely understand the details of how that's done, but they did that, and they later then imprinted, so they projected that recording using probably a coil, a copper coil or something, into water, or so I guess into a petri dish or something, and it ended up having fairly significant growth inhibition of these microorganisms, of these bacteria, fungi, uh, comparable to the real substance, the actual physical substance. They also use shams and controls that which demonstrated that this wasn't just a coincidence. And I think this is interesting here because these are done on three different types of organisms. You have fungi, you have bacteria, you have I think it's a protozoa or something. So it demonstrates that this is not just sort of a fluke. If you can't repeat a study, it's worthless. So the fact that this was repeated over three different types of life was is fairly significant, and it shows that what we understand as biology or chemistry, pharmacology is very much electromagnetic, as opposed to sort of the current paradigm, which sees things as physical lock and keys and everything like that. So I just thought this was interesting and had to post it because it's something that, given the changes that should be occurring over the next 4 years, this would be an amazing opportunity to continue to decentralize medicine. If you could have antibiotics that you use from your phone, from your computer, prescribed, quote, prescribed by, you know, a professional or someone who knows what they're doing. So you're not just necessarily doing something that may harm yourself. But I think this is a very interesting to say the least, and applicable, or a topic that's very much going to be relevant over the next few years, I think.
I think so. Dr. Yu, what do you think of this?
Oh, um, I would think this magnetic feature of antibiotics. I try to say the reason we need antibiotics is we use antibiotics to kill bacteria, right? And the fundamental feature, there's one important feature of the bacteria is bacteria act like a bar magnet. It has a magnetic field. I believe because of this bacteria, the property of bacteria, they have just acted like a bar magnets. So that's why I believe if we can deliver drug, right, and the like antibiotics based on the magnetic feature, so that's why the drug can find the bacteria, location of bacteria when you swallow them, the bacteria through this magnetic field. So I believe the fundamental reason we need the electromagnetic feature on antibiotics is because bacteria, that's the target we wanted to kill, right? Cure them, and is because they have a fundamental electromagnetic properties.
I think you're right there. You talked about how a reason why I thought this is interesting for you is that you and I have talked about for years from your physics theory. For those who don't know, Dr. Yu is the founder and discoverer of the Yuan theory, which is the universal particle theory. Everything is one made up of one particle, one law, one force, one field, right? And
Yes.
one universe. And so in this paradigm that Dr. Yu has worked from, he's been able to make very interesting predictions about how other things in other fields of knowledge might actually operate. Once I asked him years ago, publicly, even on radio, live radio, I'd put Dr. Yu through the ringer. I'd grill him about every kind of concept to see if his physics theory could give us some fresh insight or something that would help us. And I'd say, well, if your theory is correct, that every particle is a magnet, little dipolar particle having both positive and negative poles, that means our bodies are made up of little magnets. Tissue is made up of little magnets and are going to be operating in a similar magnetic principle way. Then how would you deal with something like? And he said, well, I would believe that probably, according to my theory, would be treated by something like antibiotics. And I thought, that's the strangest thing I've ever heard. What does an antibiotic have to do with, and I started doing so, and he explained it from the physics theory. So would you explain it from the physics theory of why you thought that would work?
Okay. So yeah, let me explain. See if Matthew would agree. Okay. Based on my theory, all the cells, basically every single particle are made by magnetic particles. So the so-called cell. So what's wrong with cell and health cell? So that comes with my fundamental theory. The normal cell is electromagnetic neutral cell. So that's why every single part of the cell is closed. Why they can close is all the particles made up the cell materials are magnetic particles. So they are north and south, south north attracted, forming a closed surface, which make this cell as a neutral. Whenever you have a magnet, you form them a closed circle, you will see it's a magnetic neutral because every positive field will immediately meet with a negative magnetic field, magnetic force, right? So every single point in space, that field we are talking about, the points in space, if you measure magnetic property, because positive and negative, they are formed together, they touch it together, form closed loop, you will see this is basically is a neutral cell. That's where I consider is a neutral cell is the most stable cell because its cell is healthy, it's a cell, there are no external attraction and disturbance. So that's why I consider as a neutral normal cell. However, once the normal cell becomes would becomes damaged cell. So that's what I consider the so-called cell. It can grows widely, right? Uncontrollably. Is because it becomes damaged. Which part of damage is instead of a magnetic positive and negative attract to each other from a closed surface, now you have an open area which have opposite, which may have a like pole and opposing each other. So that's why you cannot close themselves. So that's why you have a fluids from inside, energy from inside flow outside. Keep on growing. So that's where you form the tumor or something. So that's basically my structure of say what is a normal cell, what's the cell. The cell basically is a damage in the normal cell. What part of damage is because the positive and negative part of the cell are not continuous, cannot be connected. So how to cure them? Oh, one is how the normal cell becomes a cell. My theory is if you have some kind of disturbance, break the original called a neutralized cell. You have disturbance, have poach a hole, poach some material constantly flow out, break the balance of north and south for me. So now you become damaged cell. And how to keep, so that's basically is a disturbance from external and what part of the disperse the normal north and south pole naturally connect each other. So in order to cure them, I said, hey, antibiotics. And I learned one thing about antibiotics is a self. I don't know if it's manually or something. The antibiotics trace to find this bacteria location is based on electromagnetic field, actually. It's a sensing. So some false sensing. I know right now there's a research to say, hey, we make a magnetic nano cell somehow encoded on antibiotics to make it a faster delivery to the location, to the right location to kill antibiotics, to kill bacteria, because bacteria is bar magnets, right? So that's one way. But also another, my understanding is antibiotics itself can cure them through what? Through its own, just like a glue, Somehow it can make the damaged cell, disturbed, is no longer magnetic, neutralized, like a positive, negative, connective. So this antibiotics itself has a magnetic feature, and somehow can heal them. That means make the damaged part, to be a heal as a like a towards a normal cell, and somehow so through their electromagnetic properties and seal those leaking part or something, yeah, or neutralize whenever you have a cell, that means electromagnetically is no longer neutral, right? So that's why it attracts materials from adjacent bodies, fluids or something, it grows. However, if you have antibiotics, it has its own magnetic feature, so it neutralize those cells, those non-normal cells magnetic field. So they just like feeding materials and make those electromagnetized part become neutralized. So that's the number thing, the stop its growing. And the number two thing, I believe, once you stop its growing and the things becomes because it's no longer in fast motion, growing, that means constantly in motion. Once it stop growing, because stabilized, then magnetic north and south would naturally attract to each other, reoriented to each other, and to attract them each other and seal the wounded section. So that's how that's what I believe how how skin forms. When you have an open cut and the blood flow after a while, eventually it heal the skin. What makes them healed is because every single particles in the bloodstream or in your body, it has a magnetic feature. Eventually, they will be oriented by environment, based north and south, so that attach each other and eventually seal them. So that's my basic understanding of the cells and the bacteria. Does that make any sense?
Matt, what do you think?
I think that's very interesting because the body and all living organisms, by nature of having, like he's saying, by nature of having any sort of transmembrane potential, any sort of charge, they're going to generate an electromagnetic field. And sort of related to the studies we were talking about earlier, but there is a lot of research showing that pulsed electromagnetic field therapies, so very low frequency electromagnetic fields, and I don't know if these are in vitro or in vivo studies. I don't have them up at the moment, but they have been shown to be effective at restoring everything that goes wrong, all the genetic things that start to go wrong, and metabolic happenings in cells. Pulse electromagnetic fields help reverse that, help restore that, and not just for pretty much everything you can think of. So in regards to or whatever else, it's a lot of times it's just the electromagnetic field of the cell is for some reason is disrupted, um, and and the goal should be to help restore itself so that it can function as needed. Now, I just had a question for Dr. Yu. How important do you think electromagnetic fields in cells and eventually tissue, how important do you think those are in regard to eventually determining the structure of living organisms? So for cells to form this sort of beautifully intricate and complex and just amazing structures, how important do you think electromagnetic fields are or are for that? And I know that's a very broad question, but
It is a very good question, actually. The reason I believe this is called electromagnetic force is the only natural we call the natural force, natural existed called physical force in the world. So you ask me the importance. It is the only force is the electromagnetic force to hold atoms, hold particles together. There's no other force. We were talking about many what is biological, subatomic force, atomic force, and also molecular force, right? So you can categorize, they all belongs to electromagnetic force. So it is electromagnetic force forming the binding of all the particles in the world. And it is also the electromagnetic force. That's the fundamental force for genetics.
mm-hmm.
You know why each person develop differently, right? Because of a magnetic force can not only can attract and also can repel. What does that do? It is selective. It's not like a mix. Can something mix? No, it has its own law, follow its own law. Likable repel, unlikable attract. So that's why form different structure, and that's where comes genetics. Why different genetics? Have a different baby. Have a different develop different features and something. It's all based on the fundamental structure. And what's the difference between? So why we have the fundamental structure difference? The structure is based on the magnetic force has the north and the south can attract and repel. It has selective somehow. Just like say, if you have three magnets form a triangle, so or four magnets for tetrahedral, three-dimensional triangular shape, in space. So that's what a diamond. So that's what a diamond shape. So that's because triangular shape is the most stable structure. So that's what diamond. However, if you have 8 magnets, say 4 by 4, like a 4 by 4 cube, you have to have 8 magnets forming 6 faces, a cube, right? So that's what exactly that was a grass. That's grass's structure. So then you can easily to flexible to bend or deform. So all these structures, but for human beings, so this structure would be more complex than a triangular or cubic shape. It means that the structure will be more complicated. However, all these complicated structure is based on magnetic north and south interaction, and based on the different number of particles, north and south attract, you will have a different structure, and that's the structure depends on every species, every genetic, inheritance or something. So I believe this. You ask me the importance. This is a fundamental force for formation of the universe. We have formation of the life, and include biological beings.
Now, where do you think light comes into play? Light from the sun, assuming that.
Wonderful. See, I'm talking about every single particles, right? Made by magnets. So now you say, hey, what is light? And if you ask further, the electricity, sound, heat, they all related based on the magnetic property. Let me explain that to you with light. Light, the misconception about the light right now is called the photon. The particle of photon is new electromagnetic neutral particles and massless and traveling through space. So that's why, at somehow travel in space and have a frequency, right? That's what we're talking about the photon. So you see the concept of photon is a completely wrong concept. So light have nothing to do with the photons. There is any. So whenever we see light is actually a vibration, is a wave, it's a vibration wave propagation. Does that make sense to you, Matthew? You know the difference between wave and the particles? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
At least at a very basic level.
Yeah. So let me just give you a little bit of difference about a light wave difference versus a particle theory of a photon. So say based on Einstein's theory, right? Light is a particular, is particles in the photon with massless. It never makes sense to me. How could you have a particles and without a mass, right? And without the mass, and how can and have a volume? So what's in the volume? What's make this particle does not make any sense to me. So I made a further study. So say, hey, the current, say, photon just like a rings drop, or like a bullets, flying across the space. This concept have nothing to do with the light. So what I'm talking about the light is there is an electromagnetic field in the empty space. So the space is not empty, actually. It's fulfilled with the electromagnetic field. So the vibration, analogy, electromagnetic field, the analogy will be the water in the pond, just like a water filled out of the pond. Whenever you have disturbance for the water, for the pond, you throw a pebble in the pond, create a wave, right? So if you look at the wave, is every single particles in the pond, every single particle start a motion, right? Because induced by the pebble. And this motion, every single particle's motion in the river are relatively in the stationary, rather than in the, say, vibrate up and down on the surface of the wave, vibrate up and down. But no particle travel along the surface. The only things that travel along the surface is the wave. What made the wave? All the particles, all the water particles in the pond, and every single water particles are moving up and down. However, the propagation of the surface of the wave, that's the medium. The vibration medium is propagating. And the reason the medium can vibrate and can propagate is because the medium is elastic. Whenever you push one thing, the adjacent is connected with like a spring elasticity. So that's why it can create a wave propagates. But if you ask further, what force make this elastic medium? Just like, say, electromagnetic medium is elastic medium. So that's why it can transmit a light wave, because sun, like a thermonuclear explosion on the surface of sun, it creates vibration in the medium. in the medium, the electromagnetic medium fill out the empty space. So this medium started vibrating. So that's why all lights associated with a frequency, because vibration require frequency. And once this vibration frequency reach to visible visible light frequency, so we can see it. And so what is transmitted light, say, from a light source, say sun, transmitted to our eye, is because the surface of sun started vibrating and created the oscillation or vibration of the medium, and this medium is elastic. So that's once the medium vibrated, of course, no particles really traveling from sun to our eye. Whatever the sun did is just a vibrating explosion and then throw something up and then the gravity is pulling them down, right? So what they do is create vibration of the electromagnetic medium around the sun or between the sun and the earth. And this vibration wave, the wave front, and propagates due to this elasticity of the electromagnetic wave, right? So propagates to our eye. So when we see sunlight, what really going on is no particle travel from sun to our eye. No, it's only the particle next to our eyes vibrate due to disturbance of the surface of sun, created the electromagnetic wave. Does that make sense? I just want to let you know my explanation of the sun. So now explain the relationship between the light and the magnets, right? You saw that. How you talking about it? So what's the relationship by electromagnetic properties with the sun? Whenever you have a vibrating electromagnetic field, that's the sun. That's where the electromagnetic field next to your eyes, the magnetic particles vibrate to your eye. What they do is they made the eye, the pupil, right? The pupil particles are also made by magnetic particles. The external oscillation, the light wave is electromagnetic oscillation. That electromagnetic also created the particles in your pupil and oscillates. When your pupils particles oscillated, that created internal electricity. So that's why go through your brain, go through your body, and then you can sense the light. So the property of light is due to the vibration of magnetic particles.
Okay, and I assume air, so the air that we breathe is along those same lines?
Yes, the air, we normally say air is neutral, right? If you have two magnets, two magnets, right? The natural state is two bar. If you can imagine two bar magnets, right? They are in parallel. The north and the south, if they are in parallel, are neutral. So the atmosphere normally appear as a neutral particles, the air particles. But actually oxygen is not. Oxygen is a charge. Whenever I talking about the charge, so-called electric charge is actually it's a magnetic field force. So charge and the magnetic pole are the same thing. So you're talking about, so what I try to say is, hey, the bigger particles in the air we breathe or something, we consider those particles are normally a normal particle, neutralized particles, or slightly charged like oxygen, hydrogen, charged particles. However, I'm talking about this electromagnetic field the voids between these large particles. Yeah, in my estimate, the particles made out of this electromagnetic field would be billions of times smaller than oxygen or hydrogen, or electron size.
Now, what would you think is more fundamental, at least from your perspective? Let's say the Earth's electromagnetic field, sort of that thing that it gives off, versus sunlight. Do you think that there's a hierarchy there in regards to living organisms?
Oh, we know lots of living, included by antibiotic, included what is the the bacteria or animals, something they traveling, right? They all can sense Earth's magnetic field. So we know Earth are made by is a magnetic body, right? So and all the living beings are related, are related to Earth's magnetic field. So that's where they have a migration or traveling. You can always all sensing they all based on the electromagnetic properties. So can you repeat? So which part of your question? I do not believe I catch all the parts of your question. Um,
Yeah, I was just wondering if you thought that there was a hierarchy in terms of the importance of various forms of this electromagnetism. If you think about a living organism has to eat, has to breathe, it is likely going to be exposed to sunlight. And then, like we were saying with the Earth's electromagnetic field, they all go in to influence the living organisms' electromagnetic fields at the cellular level and then at the level of the organism. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on if there was if one of those sources was more important in your mind, or if they're all sort of even.
Oh, not even. Yes, you said the high order control. Whenever, the very basic vacuum field with electromagnetic field, I'm talking about those particles make up the field are billions times smaller than whatever particles we discovered in quantum mechanics. Okay, so the space always all field this kind of electromagnetic particles. So that's why forming electromagnetic field. But this field good only right now, good only transmitted the light, right? The sound and the transmit electricity is very minimal. In order to transmit electricity, you have to have a particle bigger than this is the form the vacuum electromagnetic field. So like the body is like atoms, or we're talking about the electrons. So the bigger particle, so you have a stronger magnetic field. So then you can transmit it through the body, through the solid coil or something. You have electricity. The electricity and the light are the same thing. It's vibrating. It's also vibrating of magnetic particles. So created a moving magnetic field, vibrating magnet. So that's why I create the light and also create the electricity in the body because the particle in the body are stronger magnets, are bigger particles. When they vibrate, they transmit it as electricity. However, the high order, I believe, when you use these particles, bigger particles, forming basic structure of a body, of basic structure of cell, let's say, it's bigger. The cell composed of millions or billions of atoms, right? Or even molecules, millions of molecules. And when you have this physical structure, so each structure formed by the particles are much bigger. So they have a bigger, stronger magnetic field. So that's why these forces are more dominant to forming the human bones, human, what is the blood and the skins, forming different parts of human body. It's the only difference. They all formed by magnetic particles. Okay, they fundamentally are all small from small particle bigger. The difference is become structure. Just like say, if you have if you have four magnets in space, they are naturally will form called a tetrahedral. That's a three-dimensional triangular shape, tetrahedral shape. Four is that right? Bottom three and the top one. Okay, yeah. So when you have that structure shape, so now what is this structure? The structure in order for this structure grow, the other particles connected with them, it has to be a three sides of the magnets in order to match their negative positive pole. So that's why it can grow. So diamond can be grow through the seed fundamental structure. That's what the genes is. They provide the seed structure, and everything else. In order for them to grow, it has to grow exactly matching positive with negative connection, negative with positive connection, and the same structure, so that things can grow. So I believe a dominant force would be once you have structures, So now electromagnetic force based on the selective, so you have to match exactly the same structure as a base structure. So that's the dominant force. Create all the elements. Why it's all the elements are created, pure elements, in order for them from discrete parts and connect to bigger pure parts is their structure at the boundary have to match exactly.
Okay, thank you. Now, sorry, David, but I have another question for Dr. Yu. Where do you think human consciousness comes into all this? How much do you how much do you think your own consciousness can manipulate this magnetic field? You think about the idea of placebos and the stories of people who undergo, serious injuries, and they think themselves healthy, they believe it healthy, they can call it miracles or prayer. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where people think they're going to die, maybe they get a misdiagnosis and they end up, killing themselves through their own mind. Um, where what are your thoughts on that?
You asked basically three fundamental questions. One is the formation origin of the universe, right? Origin of the universe. Now I said the origin of the universe is what? Is just based on the magnetic particle. Every single particles are magnetic particles. So that's why it can form an entire universe just based on the structure. So number one, formation of universe. Second thing is the formation of life. So we are talking biological human beings, different cell. It's the origin of the life is also based on the structure of the magnetic particle, formation of structure. Now you ask the third, that's the three basic origin questions. So third one is origin of consciousness. So you ask, so what kind of consciousness would be impact for the human recovery, right? So I want to make sure number one, the so-called human consciousness, the origin of consciousness is a magnetic field. So this is what our definition of the consciousness is awareness of existence over distance. We basically can say we can aware. So the consciousness is awareness of self-existence and awareness of just the environment. Okay. So what causing something can aware of the self and aware of environment? The only thing it can do this one is magnetic field force, magnetic force. Only magnets nearby, if you have a magnet nearby a refrigerator, it'll automatically pull you towards the refrigerator because the magnets attract to the metal, right? And so that attraction is before the even contact. So that's awareness. So that's where I believe all human organs aware something, especially mind aware something through magnetic interaction of magnetic field interaction. So this is the only force, based on my theory. Magnetic force is the electromagnetic force, or I simply say magnetic force, are the only force, and can make awareness possible. That means we can aware something over distance. Say like this one right now, we have NASA has with the Voyager spacecraft, right? Sent at 77 is almost 50 years from now, and we can still receive the signal. So how could the particles not so instrument? How could the instrument sensing something is already over solar system is already go beyond solar system through what is the electromagnetic signals, right? And that's the same signal for human being. We have identical twin, they sensing something the same time, like some words are telepathy or something. So they can say sometime it is through the electromagnetic field. So all the sensing is through this one, and I believe this kind of evidence, millions of evidences between twins. They said, oh, they have same cells, even they separated from the afterborn, and after years, and they find out they have the same hobby and dress the same thing or something, right? Something they do connect it through the electromagnetic force. So I would talking about the consciousness is the property of magnets. So that's called a magnetic field. So that's what the consciousness. Now you're talking about how use consciousness, cure something. I believe whenever you believe something, you have a stronger frequencies, vibration frequencies, right? Human thoughts or consciousness is just a vibration of electromagnetic field, right? Just a vibration wave. And this wave just have signals because certain vibration you feel happy, certain one you feel angry also. So all these feelings are due to different frequencies of vibrations. And so I believe when you believe something and you have a stronger electromagnetic field in that frequency, and what happens, you can resonate, you can magnify those frequencies. And so that means you have a stronger magnetic field. I believe you can attract to the like kind of what is it, line kind of thoughts or line kind of people, include the line like the same similar kind of materials and structure. I believe can help you grow something you believe.
And then that sort of falls in line with faith, with prayer, with sort of even magic too. That idea that
Yes, that's
it's
right.
all
That's
connected.
the power of the prayer. Yes, you're right.
It's electromagnetic.
Yes, people, whenever people agree with you, you will find out that they resonant with you, and you will find, the more people the same way, the field was very strong because they resonate in the same frequency, right? Resonant, people agree with you. However, sometimes you were somebody suddenly walk in somebody, everybody quiet. And that frequency is not a constructive wave, not a vibrating wave. It's different. It's opposite frequency. Somehow, cancel your something. So you can sense that one. So I believe that's a part of the mental belief versus physical reaction.
Amazing, amazing, really.
I wanted to say that yeah, when you have more people excited about something, you can feel the energy in a room. I do public speaking and I can feel the temperature and everything change, and it's like a dance when you get into a certain resonance of unity with the minds and the emotions of everybody in the room with you. And I remember the power of that happening from from an audience member's perspective. One time I was covering a Trump rally in Tampa Bay. This is in back in 2016, and I was covering it in the media, and I was right up at the front. And Trump said, he said, he was talking about a shooting that had happened just down the road in Orlando, and he at the Pulse nightclub, and he said, "I guarantee you, if that gentleman right there," and he pointed at me, he said, "if that man was with guns on his sides and they took one look at him, there would be no shooting as what they were able to get away with. Let me tell you that." And when he did that, people all around me for the next 20 minutes were trying to get photos with me and taking photographs of me. Like they couldn't understand that. I was like, "I'm not a celebrity, man." He just literally picked out a big dude that he saw in his eyesight. And but the magic juju that Trump had the crowd at the palm of his hand, like a orator. He had sprinkled some of that dust my way, and that just by osmosis had created this kind of enamored experience that the crowd had towards me for a little bit. So there is certainly so much truth about the idea of resonance that Dr. Yu and I love to explore. Isn't it interesting, Dr. Yu, what you can think about? And we've attached this to mimetic theory, and there's so much work to be done there that we can't wait to share some of where we're going with it.
Yes, when you create a resonance instead of one person, yeah, of course, you just need a one person. Once you create a resonance, that means everybody is resonant with you. You see the entire environment, the field will be, based on the electromagnetic field theory, the resonance can create almost infinite magnitude. So
Yeah.
that means power is so strong. You can you can almost turn blind people to be seen or something, yeah,
Yeah.
the huge impact.
And you were talking about how we can grow diamonds. And I just want to ask this question, Dr. Yu, without going too far down this topic. But wouldn't that mean that we could grow gold too? My goodness.
Uh, all the elements are grow from the smaller,
So when
grow
we talk
the
about
base
the
structure.
idea that the streets will be paved with gold in the future of Earth, that's a real reality that one day, gold could be so once we understand the principles of how electromagnetism undergirds all structure and order in the universe, including our planet,
So,
we could figure out how to harness that more intentionally and have street paved with gold one day. But don't tell any of the people that have all the gold right now. They won't want to hear about that.
Right, I agree. I don't believe current physics theory says everything heavier than iron created by supernova or something, not even in solar system. I disagree. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe everything created something. You do not need a supernova, those kind of power. You can, as long as you have some kind of accidents or something forming the gold structure by random, by purpose or by random. When you have the base structure, everything you can grow based on that structure. You can change. You can turn other materials into gold. I do believe it.
Hey, Matthew, could you tell him a little about of your fascia light stuff and some of the things about how the body communicates through color and stuff? I want to hear what Dr. Yu says about that.
yeah, well, he kind of hit on it with the consciousness thing is in order for a living organism like yourself to just exist and to stand up and walk and think, it takes a tremendous amount of coordination and power, and that coordination has to be almost instant. It there can't be any delay, because if there is, if you think about every time you take a step, all these muscles are firing, and then you're slightly tweaking your spine one way, just to stay balanced. Nerves can't explain that completely because they're a little slow. Hormones definitely not. And so that's when fascia kind of comes into play as this multifaceted sensory organ that for a long time, because when people studied the initial anatomy studies were with dead people, with cadavers and such, you didn't really get an appreciation for what the fascia is. People thought it was more of just a wrapping, a casing, which it certainly does that, but um, it transmits mechanical information because everything is connected, and even all your cells eventually connect to the fascia. So just different movements, different positions will be sensed by the cells. Uh, it can help transmit light,
Yes,
biophotons, and
yes.
then electromagnetic fields at the same time.
Dr. Yu, have you heard of this concept of the fascia? It's like this little wrap that's on our muscles and stuff. Is it made out of gelatin?
Yes. I do have this called sensing theory about human sense. So maybe you mentioned about the incident coordination. That's a very important concept. You said that it cannot be like a hormone. What is it? You use the word it cannot be like something else. Something has to be traveling almost instantly. Right now, we consider the fast traveling speed of light, right? Yeah. So actually, what is closer to speed of light is the speed of electricity, right? So all the human sensing and the instant coordination is all based on this is a very strong evidence of electromagnetic structure of the world. Uh, I don't know, Matthew, have you played many magnetic balls? I don't know if you have played or I bought like a 5,000 small magnetic balls. I can forming what is forming ladders, forming columns, forming different shape, right?
Mhm.
There's no problem, right? We have a group of magnets and we can form any structure. You know what can make the entire structure instantly change? You just threw one magnet ball into, say, if I form an Eiffel Tower, okay, I use a magnet ball carefully. If you just threw one actual magnet ball into the Eiffel Tower, 99% time, instantly collapse the entire the tower. The transmission is instantly because of magnetic positive pole. Whenever you your ball, if your ball some like pole that they repel, somehow changing the structures, the magnetic particles orientation, changing one entire structure, sensing right away, collapse the entire structure, will collapse right away. So that's exactly what I feel. So like if you have somebody touching you on your any part of your body, you sensing entire body instantly. Just like the entire body moving, instant coordination, something. The only force is electromagnetic force. And just through one, you can change the entire field. That means entire field can feel out this the touchiness.
Yeah, and I think that's displayed well with somebody's posture. People, there's a big, people know or talk a lot about body language and everything, but you can tell by somebody's posture if something is bothering them, whether it be emotionally or physically. Let's say someone has a stomach ache and they're sort of collapsed forward on their protecting their stomach. That is, like you're saying, it's an electromagnetic phenomenon where one
Instantly.
thing.
You said
Yeah,
instantly the posture were changing. Is that right?
exactly. It's going to change your posture and it's going to change how those magnets, you gave the analogy of the Eiffel Tower, it's very much like that same thing where in order for it to stand tall, everything has to kind of be in line, and you just have to throw one thing into the mix and it can really mess it up. Now, I don't think living organisms are very robust, but I think when you deal with a lot of the things that people are doing today, where it's just a nonstop assault on our electromagnets, you end up with the things that people are experiencing in regards to changes of their physical form and eventually how they're feeling, how they're operating. It doesn't that in itself is going to be electromagnetic.
I agree.
Matt,
I like your term, instant coordination. Yeah, everything that you said, the entire body has to be coordinated instantly, right? The same time almost. It's not none of them other human reasons can know. It's almost at the speed of light, right? We call
Matt, you
instant.
said it's a color though. Did you talk about that? How color would play a role in communicating this information instantly in the body?
Well, I think colors in regard to the sun, because the sun, as a major source, as we're talking about of light, and what that means. The sun very much determines our natural cycles, and people know that as their circadian rhythm. Um, but in yourself, we're not only producing electromagnetic fields, part of that is light, biophotons, as they call them, and that goes on to act as that sort of instant coordination, because light doesn't need to diffuse into a membrane. It can travel pretty much instantly. Now the colors of that light, I think we haven't necessarily deciphered at the moment, where it's still very much a new topic of study, but
Well, they used to do color therapy. They called it, what was it, chronotherapy or something like that.
Yes.
It was popular before all the goofballs took over and monopolized healthcare, but they were doing some stuff with that where they would expose the body to different colors for different effects for the
Yes.
tissue. I think that needs to
Oh,
be relooked at again. And I know there's some people doing stuff like that, but I think
uh,
that needs to be brought into the thought here.
yeah, my explanation. Okay, I just give up my explanation, and Matthew, you can comment later, afterward. Uh, the difference between color, the speed, the propagation speed are the same thing right now, right? We are talking about the electromagnetic field, the field of vibration we are not changing speed of the propagation, speed of light. We are not changing that. The only difference between different color is the frequency different. The vibration at a different frequency. So what is the frequency most healthy for biological beings or biological Earth? Green color. That's why most of the things are green. And if you look at the green color is among the light spectrum right at the middle. The visible light spectrum is right at the middle. It's a green color. Any other color means higher frequency. So that means your organs, natural organs, everything, the trees, grass, everything grows on Earth, basically harmony with this this is green colored frequency. Normally, so that's why they are not reject each other. They are more compact towards each other. Is the green color. However, but if you wanted to increase the color, say make people hate or something, make different colors. Then you're changing different color means changing different frequency. So that frequency will instead of resonant with your frequency, so that may resonate a part of your part, biological parts, or maybe rejected by other parts. So you just use a different frequency, vibration, and the resonance, and the trading different parts or creating different environment, different feelings, something. Matthew, yeah, what's your take?
Yeah, that's just the various frequencies are just used to communicate various or just different information. With the sun, how it tracks during the day when it's red, that's you're kind of relaxed because that's when it's sort of low in the sky in the morning or the evening. When it's sort of the higher frequencies in the middle of the day, the blue, the ultraviolet, that's when it's most stimulating. That's when you're going out and and getting stuff done. Um, and that sort of thing. I like the idea about the green being the neutral, which is very, very true. And probably why being amongst trees is so therapeutic. I mean, there's multiple reasons why, but that's definitely one of them. Uh, what's interesting to me, I think, with this is infrared light and how fundamental it is in a lot of organisms, and specifically with you've probably looked into structured water and Gerald Pollack, his work, where he demonstrated that infrared light was the most potent at creating a charge separation in water next to a hydrophilic membrane, so sort of like a cell membrane. Infrared light is the most potent at creating that charge separation, creating a potential. So essentially, charging electromagnetically charging living organisms. Infrared light does that, and then um, considering our own cells generate an infrared light, we are actually helping to charge ourselves. And so once you get healthy, once you do things that feel good, whatever's helping you produce that sort of infrared light is actually creating sort of this positive feedback loop within yourself. I think that's a testament to um, just the genius design, if you will, of the body of living organisms. So that's just what I wanted to chime in there.
I 100% agree with you. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating thing. Matthew has written a lot on trying to help people, in the tradition of Dr. Ray Peat and others like it, about putting infrared light around you in the nighttime if you need to use light for work to be done. Moving your phone's screen to red saturation rather than blue light, and avoiding a lot of blue light. Now, I remember the first time I ever met Dr. Yu, he was explaining to a crowd of people the dangers of blue light. So, Dr. Yu, why is blue light bad in your opinion in the way in which it's used in electronics at night and so forth?
Oh, you mean LED lights too bright sometimes
Yeah.
hurt human being? Yes, because it has a blue lights have a shorter frequency, which means it's a higher energy than normally human being can, tolerate or something. So that's why hurt your eyes, you know, destroy some certain cells and lost some functioning. So yeah, so those LED, strong LED, the blue lights, then whenever you have a higher frequency, that means shorter wavelengths, or relatively have a higher energy, but that's not a really problem, not a really reason. I believe the reason, right, human being easily to do mild light instead of higher level, because that frequency destroy your natural body's frequencies. So instead of help you healings resonant with your body, how you feel comfortable, but it's opposite to your body.
What
So
is blue light?
yeah, blue lights. Yeah, blue lights. I believe that's too strong. The shorter, just like ultraviolet, is higher. higher frequency than infrared, right? So the human being, maybe body for body, normally for eye, comfortable eyes, right? A little bit, like a natural green light frequency, most suitable for human being psychologically, I believe so. And but for the body, Matthew just mentioned infrared, some kind of have therapeutic or effect or something healthy. I believe bigger particles, so the body particles are bigger. Bigger particles, they have a resonance frequency is lower. So I believe so infrared could be a interact resonant with some kind of body part, which is less than some green or something. However, the blue lights higher. Oh, one thing I cannot tolerate is police car when they start some of this ultraviolet lights being on. It hurt my eye so big. I have to look aside whenever I see that one. It hurt me because number one is a higher energy. Number one is another resonant is a distract my natural frequency of eyeball. So that's why it hurt me.
Matt, does that fit with where you're going with light or what?
Yeah. I also see it as, if you think of things in terms of frequency, it's kind of like a musical note, and the sun, because it's producing so many different frequencies at once, it's like this massive chord, this massive beautiful chord that's playing. And then if you try to just take out one note from that, uh, it's not going to sound as good. And so for, our case in blue light, because it's that sort of higher energy, higher pitched frequency, it's kind of detrimental in that form. And the same can also be true for some of the infrared lights and the green lights. When you do get those isolated frequencies, because they're not as high energy, they're not going to be bad necessarily in regards to in a similar manner as blue, but it's not quite as good as say from an incandescent bulb or from fire or from the sun. So that's at least how I think of it. Is I equate it to sound, which if everything is electromagnetic, then it would make sense that there would be that almost direct parallel um, there. So.
I agree. So natural lights, the mix, right? Mix a different frequency, you feel more comfortable instead of a single light frequency. I believe it could always causing problems. Yeah.
Dr. Yu, from the physics standpoint, why would plants and animals produce more productive results when they hear classical music? What's going on at the electromagnetic level?
I believe just like Matthew mentioned about the pitch. If a pitch is too high, classical music never have those very super high pitch, right?
Yeah.
So their pitch is more melody and more harmonious with human natural frequency. So that's why you feel happy. That's what a Christmas music. If you look at a Christmas, they all have a therapeutic hour because they have a relatively low frequency and some what is a low frequency vibration field is more harmony with your natural body motion.
Yeah. Like at least the old ones. Some of the new ones are a little annoying, but yeah, the old ones.
Oh, you have a new.
I don't want a lot for Christmas is not as good as Silent Night.
Right. Yes. You see, there are differences, frequency difference, right?
Yeah, that first
so
one
that's
started
what the
making me
pitch.
nauseous.
Yeah, that's what the pitch means. Right. Yeah.
I think this is all very fascinating, but I think we'll leave it here. Any last thoughts, guys, or questions for each other? I just thought it was fun to bring some two friends together. Matt, I've gotten to know you just recently, but I've just found you to have a great uh, mind and curiosity for the human body. And I'm looking at your Twitter page right now. You've got stuff about that. What is this muscle called? PSOAS? What is that?
The psoas muscle.
Right? That's what everybody has when they sit in the office too long, right?
Psoas, yeah.
Yeah. What is that about?
It's just a muscle that when humans became upright and we had to balance ourselves, it became extra important in order to maintain the posture of our spine of our lower back, because the lower back is a spring. It keeps us upright, but it's a spring and it's meant to absorb energy every time we walk. Same with our neck. And so this muscle controls the mechanics of the spine, the posture of the lumbar spine, and a lot of people dealing with lower back pain today because they're not moving enough, and they're they're in general their electromagnetic fields are under attack, and they're degenerating, and your physical posture, as we talked about, is going to show that. And I just wanted to talk about the psoas muscle here because people are often complaining about it and everything. So
Yeah. Well, I wanted to know, can you explain the Gilbert Ling cell thing real quick and see if that resonates with Dr. Yu?
honestly, I'm not well versed enough
Okay.
in Gilbert Ling's theory
Okay.
to explain it
I'll get
to
a
Dr.
Lingian.
Yu.
I'm going to get a Lingian on for that one then.
Yes,
Do
that
you
would
have
be
any
more appropriate.
recommendations you can send me? I'm going to have that. I'll do another session with that topic.
I'm sure there's some other Peters out there, some bioenergetic people who are more well read into Ling than myself. So if you go down that route, if you start exploring those people, they you
Yeah.
probably can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
So
Well, I appreciate your time. Any last thoughts or questions for each other?
well, I just wanted to say I think it's great to have some sort of some bouncing off ideas off of somebody who's maybe more of a physicist, and then somebody who's more of a interested in biology to connect these things, because I think there's uh the centralization of health and just science in general that then compartmentalizes and reduces everything. It takes the wonder out of life. It takes the beauty and the magic out of life. And when we're able to have this conversation and basically tell you that your health is a physics issue, and able to sort of explain it and explain all of these happenings in a manner that makes sense and is intuitive and doesn't leave people asking, more questions, in a confused and bad manner. So I think getting this information out there for people is great, and I like talking about it.
Matt, and I'm gonna let Dr. Yu close us out here, but Matt, it's interesting to think about. You could get T3 if people need it produced T3 production, they could get the structural frequency of the T3 hormone molecule and listen to it in their headphones and probably do just as well as taking it actually, right?
Yeah, I actually have a YouTube video where I did that. It's on my channel. I can link it for you.
Yeah.
But all those things, if you go to infopathy.com, you can look it up. They have a huge database. They have the equipment that you need. You can use speakers because it's an electromagnetic phenomena through the medium. But they do so. I have found that their equipment is a little more. They have some coils, some like Tesla coils or something that are not Tesla coils, but electromagnetic coils that are a little more potent. But there's thyroid stuff. There's all sorts of vitamins, minerals, you name it. It's on the database. So
Info what?
infopathy.com, infopathy.
And they got the clips. You can listen to them there for free, or you got to, is it for payment?
Well, that one's on my YouTube channel. I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but I put it out there for advertisement purposes. Uh, I'll also link my YouTube channel like that to you. So if you wanted to share that, you can, and try it for yourself. If you're doubting it, you want to give it a go, be my guest.
Dr. Yu, any final thoughts?
Oh, the final thought. Thank you, David. You forward Matt's, the X post, the post on the Max. I believe that what is a couple months ago or something.
Yeah, like
Right. I thought, wow, somebody really touched the importance, catch up the board, the magnetic feature of the antibiotics. I believe that this is really touching the fundamental force that made out of the universe. I thought, wow, this is a great application, and somebody smart, really observe the relationship between the electromagnetic things about antibiotics and the human bodies or something. I thought that's a great articles, great fund, David, and I'm so happy. So I
Yeah, and
can.
it's
It's
fascinating.
an honor to communicate it with the author directly.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on, Dr. Yu. And, it's interesting to think about playing the audio of those antibiotics and what that might be able to unleash for people's health in the future if we have better open minds and joining into the medical community. Hopefully, maybe with the change of policies and so forth, we can unleash some more creativity and real healing into medicine again. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be amazing.
All right.
That's the goal, though.
Thank you very much for coming on. And for those who want to follow Dr. Yu's work, you can go to aneighborschoice.com and click on the Science and You segment or type in Dr. Yu and you'll see years of catalog of content about the stars, about black holes and galaxies and elasticity and everything in between, and so many fascinating things over the years that we have there. And we look forward to some future things coming up that'll be very exciting to see. So that's it for a Neighbor's Choice and Science and You crossover show today. You can email me hello at a neighborschoice.com. Godspeed.